always at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time, and something very interesting has happened because Kyle Shanahan talked to Albert Breer. In fact, Albert Breer ended up talking to Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance as well. But this was very revealing because Kyle Shanahan laid out that there's an actual Shanaplan for this quarterback position.
Yeah, there's definitely a Shanaplan for the quarterback position, and surprisingly enough, it involves Jimmy and Trey.
It is.
Not just one, something that we've been harping on and talking about. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, so that we get more of these breakdowns about things that are coming out from quarterback competition and Quarterback Watch 2021 from training camp. Although this wasn't more of a watch more of just of a listen, hear, digest, and understand what's going on, because Shanahan had some things to say. Something that Shanahan doesn't usually do. Open up, right, and let you see inside and peek inside the curtain that is this 49ers team and the inner workings of this locker room. But he had a lot to say to Mr. Breer.
He has been more transparent this offseason than I can remember. I think he's always, dealt with transparent with his players and was very honest and brutally honest with them all the time. So that is something that is to be respected. But this right here really put out what the Shanaplan was. And when we say the Shanaplan, this is what Kyle actually has presented to the team, how he has talked to these players, and how it's going to be executed. That, yes, it is not Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance, but it's Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance as the quarterbacks of this football team. Yes, that's right. A quarterback system of two quarterbacks playing together and working together. And he lays it out really nice in this. And I thought the part that most intrigued me was the part where he talked about how he had already spoken to the team about this. And basically, they know about it and they trust him. So I definitely want to get into these quotes because we want to read them exactly how they are constituted. But, man, to me, this was just something that had to be talked about, had to be addressed. Because Kyle Shanahan's so plainly putting it out there.
Yeah, and he talked about at the start of this, right, that he thinks that this situation is week in, week out, and that he can ride it out. He said that. I think I can ride it out week in, week out personally. I think our guys trust us to make the right decision. It's cool being in a building where there's no one really has an agenda, whether it's me, the general manager, the owner, right? Everyone's on the same page. There's no pressure. Hey, you have to do this, or hey, you have to do that. Our players know that too. That's what's great about our place here. When players know you're on the same page with the personnel department, with the owner, they're not going to really care because all they want to do is just win.
Yes, that is true. And he's right. There's no egos. I mean, there's nobody trying to get the upper hand on everybody. We've seen this happen in other places, right? Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson. Eventually, one guy's ego gets ahead of the other, and they can't work together. You've seen the same thing, I guess, with Balky and Jim Harbaugh to an extent, where they couldn't get along because one guy wanted it his way and one guy wanted it the other way, and they couldn't really work together. So we've seen this in the past, and because he has no egos and they're able to work together, they can put things together like this. Because I think a lot of people were considering that Jimmy Garoppolo needed to be moved. If Trey Lance is here, you need to move Jimmy Garoppolo. How can you possibly have $27 million as a backup quarterback? Well, we found out that it's not going to be a $27 million quarterback, but actually maybe the first-team quarterback is actually a $31 million quarterback between Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance together. Both of them have unique skill sets and traits that he can use, and he's planning on using them. And he talks about that in this. And so the way he says it is, and I think when this is all said and done, there's going to be two guys they believe will help us win, and I think they'll trust us to make the decision, what you said, whether it's permanently for one game, for a series, or just a situation. We got to balance that out right, though. It's tough to do, but it's as easy as how do you win this football game? So he clearly said it, Alex, this time. It doesn't matter, what the situation is, whether it's a starter for a game, for a series, switching these guys for a series, switch them for a certain situation, whatever it is, he's willing to do it because it's all about how do you win the football game.
Correct. And this is one when I first heard and read this comment, I took it a little differently. I didn't take it as maybe this is a situation where Jimmy isn't the starter or that, I took the quote to mean kind of what it says here in the basics, but not trying to reach too much into it, right? That he's not willing to name a permanent starter because he believes both guys are going to be on the field. And if at any point in time one guy struggles and one guy's playing better, that person can slowly shift into the starting quarterback mold. But the fact that he says with such conviction, game to game, right? Permanence, talks about series, situation. The fact that it's so open and fluid started to, as we talked more and more about this before we sat down to actually record it, that the plan is to have both guys available to play whenever, not for one guy to be the go-to starter, solidified first guy, and the other guy to be the 1B, that potentially both of these guys are just 1A. It just depends on the situation. And this is something that you have talked about a lot. You know, we just had a live stream where we discussed and talked about this, and someone had asked about wide receiver 3, right? And who is the wide receiver 3? And from a coaching perspective for you two guys, what's your ideal wide receiver 3? And I had talked about, that, for me, it may be one thing, but for another coach, it's going to be certain skill sets and certain things. And then you talked about how, yes, but it also could just be the fact that it's situationally, the situation, the environment, the down, the distance, the personnel package, the defensive scheme and philosophy you're playing against. All those things can factor in. That looks like the case here, right? Game to game, defense to defense, coordinator to coordinator, right? Depending on what another team does well and their strengths, you may see more of Trey in one game than Jimmy. You may see a lot of Jimmy and not a lot of Trey. You may see, Jimmy in these types of situations and Trey in these types of situations. You could have games where it's 50-50. You could have games potentially where the other guy doesn't play other than a very few amount of snaps. This is a very different approach to the quarterback situation because the old adage is, right, you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks.
Right.
This is something that you try and stay away from typically as a head coach and an offensive coordinator, and Kyle Shanahan is steering into the skid, right, and embracing it.
Yes, and he's addressed this before where he talks about in a previous conversation he had with the press, he was talking about, hey, you look at the receiver room, and all the guys that are there have to play in the game, right? They're all going to play. It's a different approach where you have the receivers, and every position they have to be ready to play, except for a quarterback. You don't normally play multiple quarterbacks in a game.
Typically not.
But could it be that you revolutionize the position in the NFL, and you go with the two-quarterback system, where you use all the strengths that Jimmy Garoppolo has, couple them with all the strengths that Trey Lance has, and then you put them in good situations where they can be successful. 3rd and 1. Here comes Trey Lance to run the read option. Now a defensive end or outside linebacker has to sit and wait, freeze on that read for that read option just in case he pulls and runs around the outside, allowing a Mostert or Sermon to get up the field and get that yard and get that first down and just making it more difficult for the defense. Or maybe it's 3rd and 8 where Jimmy Garoppolo has been very successful in his career and he can go out there and complete a pass that used to go to Kendrick Bourne, now it can go to somebody else. Those are all things that's going to be something they can do. So Kyle's taking an approach where we have these guys that have tremendous skill sets in certain situations. Right now, Trey Lance isn't, full-fledged ready to go all the way, but he still has things that I want to use, and they are things that would help Jimmy Garoppolo be better. So instead of having two quarterbacks that have strengths, now we have one super quarterback that we can use together if you use both traits and skill sets from them. I think it's no different, Alex, in how the running back room is constituted, right? You got Mostert's speed. You got Trey Sermon's inside run with a vision. You got Elijah Mitchell's speed. You got Gallman that can execute in the red zone area. JaMychal Hasty can catch the ball in the backfield. All these guys have certain traits and skills that when you put them together, it's tremendous for your offense. Separate, getting multiple, all the carries, maybe they're not as dynamic, but together, all as one unit, it's fantastic. And that's how you build a team. It's just not usually done with the quarterback position in the NFL, but it looks like that's the way Kyle Shanahan is trending, or at least making everyone think that's what he's going to do, so that way defenses have to prepare for it.
And that's a smart thing, even if this is a smokescreen, which Shanahan has not been one to fully lie, right? When he gives you information, there is truth in there. And sometimes it's a lot of truth, and sometimes it's a little bit of truth. The little bit of truth may be that he plans on using both of them, but one guy is going to be the solidified go-to guy, or it may be the full truth, and this is a full two quarterback system. In which case, this makes me think that if this was the plan all along, that they knew for a while that they wanted to go with Trey Lance and were just keeping things quiet because this was the path that this was eventually going to take, and that they've been planning for something like this. And if they've been planning for something like this, Ant, this could have been brewing for years before he even got to San Francisco. Because think back to his time in Washington, right? They went out and got RG3 early and then also took a guy like Kirk Cousins. And he is a big fan of Kirk Cousins and the things Kirk Cousins could do. He was really, implored. There wasn't the fact that he talks about the front office being on the same page. That wasn't the case when he was in Washington.
True.
There was no communication combination. People and things weren't flowing there.
That's accurate.
This is something that he could have been concocting and scheming since then and wanted to initially try there, right? A guy like RG3 who's got the speed, the mobility, the agility, and the big arm, right? And a guy like Kirk who also has a big arm, but is a little bit more of a pocket guy who can do different things and execute certain aspects and areas of your offense. Maybe that's the reason why they went with 2 quarterbacks initially, is this is what they kind of wanted to do, and it got kiboshed over there, and now he's in a place in San Francisco where there's unity, right? Not conformity, but unity and an understanding and everyone being on the same page in order to accomplish one goal, which is, right, not just to win, but to get to that 6th Super Bowl and bring that bad boy back to Santa Clara, back to San Francisco, back to the 49ers, and put this organization back at the top, right? The cream of the crop in terms of organizations in the NFL. Man, I'll tell you what, it's a risky play. It's a ballsy play if that's truly what we're doing. But if there's anyone who can do it and is crazy enough to pull it off, it's Kyle Shanahan.
You have to really have the confidence of the locker room.
Yeah.
You have to have the confidence of every single one of these guys. Nobody can be off. Nobody can wonder. Nobody can question it. Everyone has to be on. And these quarterbacks have to buy in as well. And both of them have kind of talked. Jimmy Garoppolo said, "I've never been in a situation like that. I think at any level of football, you get 2 quarterbacks playing. It's tough, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there." There's the whole Taysom Hill thing in New Orleans. They were doing a version of that. There is a place for it. It's tough, but Kyle, he's a revolutionary guy. He's done some crazy stuff.
It was totally stuff
in the past, so you never know. The fact that he said that, and he put that situation out there where you had Taysom Hill coming in for Drew Brees. Yes, so they understand that right there is showing the 2 quarterback system. Trey Lance also comments on it and says, "I've never been in a situation like that, but whatever Coach Shanahan thinks is best to help the team win, I'm for it." And that seems to be the message, right? Kyle Shanahan, whatever it takes to help the team win. Trey Lance, whatever it takes to help the team win. It's tough, but Kyle's a revolutionary. So they're looking at it, and all these guys have to be bought in. And it is interesting that this is the situation the 49ers are going with. I think the whole process for 49ers fans has been, is it Jimmy or is it Trey? And I know maybe a few weeks ago now, we started saying, hey, it's Jimmy and Trey. We started getting that feeling that, hey, these guys are together, these guys are going to do it. And I think Kyle Shanahan is coming out and saying, he said already, Trey's going to play snaps this year. Now in this article, he's saying from situation to situation, from game to game, it could be Jimmy, it could be Trey. So it is Jimmy and Trey.
It's 100% Jimmy and Trey. And Kyle, we appreciate you putting that out there. And,
thank you.
Putting that information there and kind of solidifying the point that we've been trying to drive home to a lot of the faithful and to the Cutback crew, that we felt that this was going to be, we felt personally this was going to be the best fit for the team, just based on the things we had seen from Trey Lance, right? And the things we had seen from Jimmy Garoppolo. Both guys can have success. You don't have to pick a side. You can find ways to implement and get both these guys on the field to have success.
It's true.
And it feels that Kyle feels this way also. And he talked a little bit more about, not just getting the quarterbacks to buy in, because if you can get the quarterbacks to buy in, that's great and good and all, but the rest of the team has to buy in as well. Getting the quarterbacks to buy in makes it easier for the team to buy in, right? Because if they see them being selfless and willing to sacrifice for the greater good of the unit and the group, then everyone else is more than likely willing to get on board as well, because it's like, oh, these guys, like Jimmy, a guy who's a leader who's taking us to a Super Bowl, he's willing to make that sacrifice. Trey is okay if he doesn't outright win the job here as a rookie, as the 3rd overall pick who really wants to prove something. Well, shoot, man, let's hear more about this thing. And Kyle talked about how, he knew it was going to be a challenge explaining this to everybody, getting them to buy in. But once he kind of showed them the plan and what his idea was and how it gave them the best chance to win, not just explaining it, not just being like, we're going to do this, because I think we can, in different situations can beat an opponent based on what they run. The end. No. Sit them down. Show it to them. Explain it to them. Give them some evidence. Show them some film. Point out the things that he's trying to see, like, hey, in this situation here, teams are doing this. Trey does this well. That we can exploit that. Those types of things really sold it home for the rest of the group and the rest of the team. And if you have top to bottom, the organization on board for something like this. I know it's never been done before, and you can sit there and question it, till you're blue in the face, and, well, no one's ever done it. There are always exceptions to rules. This very well could be the exception, right? This could become the thing that is the new norm for this team, at least in 2021. Probably not in the future, because I think you and I both think after this we part from Jimmy and it's Trey's team to lead into the future the rest of the way. But this does open up the doors for a lot of other teams in the league, and for this team going forward as well, that you can find a way to implement two guys to occupy a single space on the roster than necessarily having to rely on just one.
There's a lot of excitement that comes with this, right? Because now you're going to have a lot of potential situations where the defense is in trouble. The way Kyle Shanahan uses all of his talent at the skill positions, now he can use these two quarterbacks that way too to take advantage of it. I think this is harder pill to swallow for Jimmy Garoppolo, who is the starter. He's had this job before, and now you got the young guy, and he thought all he had to do was hold him off. He didn't think that he was actually going to be playing with him. And for Trey, it's like, wait, I'm going to get snaps as a rookie. I kind of thought maybe, I was going to compete, but I kind of thought maybe I wasn't going to be able to get this job. So it's a little bit easier for him to swallow. I think he gets to get on the field, gets opportunities to produce and perform, and he's going to take advantage of it. I think you look at Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think a lot of people saw him as the bridge quarterback. He's bridging the gap until we get to Trey Lance. To find out that it's actually going to be Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance that bridge the gap to Trey Lance is kind of funny to think about. But I like the idea. I do. I think this would have worked with when Harbaugh had Kaepernick and Alex Smith. Maybe if he would have had the same amount of confidence Kyle Shanahan has, in the fact guys. and the fact that he has that confidence in the group that he's working with, maybe you can pull this off, because Alex Smith at certain situations, Colin Kaepernick at certain situations could have been a dynamic situation.
Absolutely.
So it is an interesting concept. The skill sets and the different things that they do that can stress the defense, especially the added elements that Trey presents, is something that I know all of us are excited to get in there. And with him not having to learn an entire offense because he doesn't have to do everything, he only has to do what's game planned for him and schemed for him, it's going to be an easier transition where he can excel at those situations and plays. I think it's a good idea. It is a little nerve-wracking as far as, because you're going to have two quarterbacks. Can they get in a rhythm? Is that going to be an issue? And if it's not, this is going to be fun to watch, and a lot of exciting stories that are going to come out of this.
And also for fantasy owners, a nightmare at the quarterback position. If you're a fantasy football owner, stay away from 49ers quarterbacks. You're better off going with Sam Darnold. You're just better off. If this is truly the plan, if this is the Shanaplan, right, is that both of these guys on any given week can be a guy. If you're a fantasy owner, you don't want any part of the Shanaplan. The Shanaplan is actually the worst case scenario for you if you have to rely on a 49ers quarterback. But for you non-fantasy owners out there, this is something unlike anything that has ever been seen or tried before in the NFL, because this isn't a situation where potentially we're talking about Taysom Hill coming in and just running the football, right? Or wildcatting it up. This is a situation you're talking about where you have guys going in that can run the same offense, right? To an extent, Jimmy obviously is not going to be able to run and execute the read options to the same level that Trey Lance can, because when Jimmy pulls the ball down to run, Jimmy's looking to get 2 or 3 yards and then get down on the ground and get away from it. Don't take the shot, Jimmy. Gosh, that's what's going to happen there. And when Trey pulls it, he's going to be able to potentially make a big play with his feet. And, he could lower his shoulder. We don't want him to do that. We want him to just get, make a couple moves, get out of bounds, keep his body fresh. But Trey is a weapon with his feet, where Jimmy is more of a, keep things alive and maybe extend some plays or extend some drives. But, you don't expect that from a Jimmy Garoppolo. This is a situation where, though, you have both guys who can do the same aspects of the playbook to different levels, right? And to the point that you made earlier, Ant, about taking the pressure off of Trey Lance, right? The pressure comes off fully in this scenario, because you're not expected to lead this team now to a Super Bowl. You're asked to shoulder the burden with your mentor, with the guy who's ahead of you, with the vet who's already taken this team, right? Jimmy, I'm here to help you carry this load of this offense and the responsibility of this offense to a Super Bowl and get us there. He gets to learn, right? He gets to learn at his pace and what the offense and what Shanahan believes he can handle on a week-to-week, game-to-game, situation-to-situation basis. When he thrives and shows you that he can handle it, you can add a little bit more to his plate, right? And as the season progresses, Shanahan says permanence. He talked about permanence. Just because something starts off one way now doesn't mean that it won't permanently become some way in the future. But as of right now, this is a shared responsibility and a shared role. And from everything we've seen so far in training camp, both guys are playing well. Jimmy is playing lights out. Trey has been playing lights out. Yes, they have their weaknesses and they have their mistakes, but you know what? You put both of them together, and you got something special there in the quarterback room.
Yeah, and there is something to the fact that these defenses have to prepare for two different quarterbacks. You almost have to have two different schemes of defense. So the 49ers can make them prepare for so much. They were already concerned when it was just one quarterback.
True.
Now with you have the added aspect of what Trey Lance can do, and the fact that there's the fear of throwing, right? When you have Taysom Hill, you don't really have the fear of him throwing the ball downfield. When the Ravens did this with their guy, what's his name?
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, thank you.
I got you.
He couldn't throw that well yet in his rookie season.
No,
it kind of developed. It got better, but you didn't have that same dynamic, so you knew what you were getting. Where when you have Trey Lance in there, he can throw the ball. So he can execute down the field. Oh, you want to come up and bring someone. It's 3rd and 1. You want to bring a safety into the box, and now I got a one-on-one situation with Brandon Ayuk down the field. Good luck, because Trey Lance is going to take advantage of it. We've seen that he can throw the ball down the field and make plays. So there is a fear factor. There's going to be so much scheme that they have to learn. They're not only going to have to prepare for this offense and all the skill players, all the running backs, all the receivers, but now the added element of two different quarterbacks that can beat you in different ways. It's definitely a good idea as far as the way it's thought about and the way it's processed. But execution is going to have to be at a high level, and they're going to have to execute this seamlessly to be able to use both players, let the offense, get a rhythm and be able to flow and still take advantage of both quarterback skill sets. But if they can do it, it could be dynamic. If they can't, it could be an absolute train wreck. I seem to think it'll be more successful, but I'm always the optimist.
Correct. I would agree with you that it has a better likelihood of being successful right now than the other way, and that's just because of what we've seen so far out of both guys. And, when we get an idea of what Trey looks like in an actual preseason game, it'll either curtail this direction more, that the Shanaplan is in full effect and it's going to be 2, or maybe you take a step back. Because that's the one thing that Shanahan did provide here is the opportunity for flexibility. So just because something is trending a direction right now and heading a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it's going to be or that's the direction this is going to take. And we could be wrong reading into the Shanaplan. This could be a smokescreen for all we know.
Could be.
But if there's one thing we know about Kyle Shanahan is that he is a creative genius. He is a mastermind with this kind of stuff. The things that we've seen with the horizontal offense and the way that he's schemed up play designs, the way he schemes open receivers, tight ends, doesn't matter, fullbacks, doesn't matter how he utilizes pieces. He's very creative in how he goes about in his approach to offense. This is not out of his wheelhouse by any means or a stretch in any way. This is right in the Kyle Shanahan wheelhouse. And talking about revolutionizing, this could change the way that teams approach a quarterback situation. Because if you have a guy that you like, right, that you've paid and committed some money to, but he has some weaknesses, you might be able to find a young man out there in the draft that can supplement and pick the things that he doesn't do well and add to it and find a way to mesh and combine. There's even crazy situation, right, where if this works out extremely well and the Niners win a Super Bowl, that if you want to take this to its nth degree, that this becomes the mold of how Shanahan builds quarterback rooms. 2 quarterback systems in which you have a strong-armed guy and a pocket guy, a mobile guy and a less mobile guy who you can mold and mesh together to keep your quarterback salary cap number down going into the future. I don't think you trade, 2 first-round picks in order to accomplish that. So by no means am I saying that's the situation. But that door goes from being this door that's off in the woods, right, that you can't even see and is not real, to if this path gets blazed, that is always a possibility that teams could take, right? You talk about money ball in baseball, right, where you just find guys to, make up for a big number player. You could have that same type of thing molding and morphing because of this here in San Francisco and this decision. I don't think that happens. I think that's the nth degree dramatization to a 50 on the meter. But the door now becomes an open possibility for teams to test and try this. And if it works in San Francisco, you can guarantee there will be other teams that try and pull something off similar to this.
There could be teams, that try this. This is a one and go for Kyle Shanahan.
Correct.
This is a one and done. They'll do it this year. It's their best situation. It'll bridge the gap till Trey Lance is ready to take over. This will give Trey Lance opportunities to play football games and be on the field and pick up on NFL speed, learn how to read coverages in game situations, the intensity that goes along with it. He'll be able to develop and add more and more offense as the season goes on, but yet not burden the load of having to be out there for every snap and play every single down and carry the team on his back. You brought that up a little bit earlier, and I think that's a fair point and a good point. I think that this is the plan for this year. It seems Kyle Shanahan, he wouldn't have put it out there unless he thought that this was something they were going to go with. They're going to do it. They're going to play these guys together. We knew they were going to play them in certain situations, but they've expanded it far beyond what I thought, because I thought we were going to get short yardage and red zone, and now he's saying it could be a series, it could be a drive, it could be a game, whatever gives them the best opportunity to win. The 49ers are in the winning business. They're not in the make sure we have this guy out there business. So that means any player on this team needs to recognize that every single player needs to be ready to go, ready to be an extension of the other player and get it done. And you need to be able to, produce when you're out there. And we're going to do whatever we have to do and use whatever combination of players we need to use and their skill sets to win football games. I think a lot of times when that happens, a team can come together because it's like, wait, this is going to be my turn or that's going to be your turn. We can all come together and do it. I like what Kyle Shanahan's doing. The fact that he got everyone to buy in tells me everything I need to know about this organization, about this team, and how they feel about their coach, and they're all in. And that's a good sign for the season, because when you're all in, you're going to fight for the person next to you, fight for that leader that's leading you. And these quarterbacks are following along, which is definitely hard to do, especially with that position. So 100% like it, love it. I'm curious how it ends up working out. We'll find out a little bit, I'm sure, as the season goes on. But Kansas City, I can't wait to see Trey play.
I can't wait either. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Kyle talked a little bit about that as well. And he had mentioned and talked about how in order for something like this to work, you have to have the right pieces in place and the right team in order to accomplish it and do it. And he said in that, talking to Albert Breer, he told him essentially, I think we do. I believe we do. All signs point to this being a team that this can work with. We're going to see, and there's obviously going to be challenges that present itself along the way, but he believes that this is the group that he can get this done with. The first step, though, is Trey Lance playing in this game against the Chiefs on Saturday and us being able to see him on an actual football field with the bullets flying in his face, how he handles that moment, how he handles that pressure, and how he performs against a team that's been to 2 straight Super Bowls and is going to be wanting to stick it to the young rookie and try and get into his head, because it very well could be the team that you end up facing in the Super Bowl.
I just want to see him play well. I do. I want to see him go out there and tear it up. I want to see that potential show up. But I want all these guys to do well. I want to be able to see all these players playing at their best. It's going to be exciting. I'm sure Kansas City is going to be hyped up. Their starters are going to play, a whole series. So congratulations for that. And then they'll watch the game like everybody else. But it's going to be fun to see the rookies out there. I think there's been so much hype surrounding these rookies, none more than Trey Lance. We won't get to see any of the Shanaplan anytime in the preseason. We will just see these guys out there running, plays on their own. Jimmy with the 1s, Trey with the 2s, especially early on in Kansas City. But I think that this is something that can be developed, and if executed right, like I said, it could be dynamic. It could take this team to a whole nother level on the offensive end. Change the way that the football is played in the NFL, maybe. Is it revolutionary? We'll see. I mean, they've done it in college. Can they do it in the pros? The big adage was always they can't. They always thought they couldn't do this. Maybe they can. We're going to find out real quick. Detroit, you're on the clock. When that comes, are you going to be able to stop these 2 quarterbacks?
You may be the first people to take the Shanaplan test and see how it works out. Detroit, I feel bad for you. And to that point, Ant, it has worked at college, and you've seen the influx, right, of college ideals and philosophy and scheme slowly seeping its way into the NFL. And you may be sitting there going, what team has ever had success at the college level? The Florida Gators. The Florida Gators with Chris Leak and Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer's first year at the University of Florida in 2008. That was a 2-quarterback system. Less Tebow in actual games, playing heavy amounts of snaps, but he was definitely a situational type of guy, series to series, situation to situation. They would put him out there. If they were up big, they definitely got him in there earlier and got him run and got him opportunities. And anytime they got inside 20 yards of that red zone, it was most of the time Tebow's time to shine, especially when it was short yardage. They had success with that. It's very easy to see that they could have success here. Trey Lance is definitely a better thrower of the football than a Tim Tebow, and a better athlete running the football than a Tim Tebow. Jimmy Garoppolo, a significantly better thrower of the football and better in the pocket than Chris Leak ever was as a quarterback at the University of Florida. This can work. They have the pieces to make this work. Now the question becomes, can this group execute the Shanaplan?
And can the fans get behind it?
That's going to be tough.
I mean, everything has been Jimmy versus Trey. Can we get behind Jimmy and Trey? I hope so, because I hope that when, there's a bad play or something, we don't get on one of these guys, and take a side. It's time to unite behind this. If this ends up being the official Shanaplan for the 49ers, it's time for us just to go, you know what? I like Jimmy. I like Trey. We can be together on this. It's kind of like Steve Young said in 94. He was like, I like Joe and I like Steve, and that's okay. That is okay. It's still okay now. You can like two quarterbacks that are on the same team. That's fine. And Steve was referring to the fact that a lot of Joe Montana fans couldn't cheer for him until he won that Super Bowl. And then it was like, okay, you're okay now. We like you a little bit.
You're all
I
right.
think this has been so polarizing since Trey Lance was drafted that it's going to be hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. It's easy for me because I just rooted for both guys anyways, but I'm curious how fans respond to Jimmy and Trey.
We're curious to hear what you have to say, Cutback Crew and Faithful, so make sure you let us know down in the comment section below right now. What do you think about the Shanaplan? Is this even the Shanaplan? Are we dead wrong? The Shanaplan is actually Trey week 1 and we're just completely off base. The Shanaplan is actually Jimmy all season and Trey never sees the field. We want to hear from you. All we can do is go off of the information that we're given and the word of Kyle Shanahan.
Correct.
When it comes out of his mouth, you have to take it, not with a grain of salt, but with sincerity and really dive in and take a look at it, because very rarely does he open up as much as he just did. So when he does, you take it in, you digest it, you evaluate it, you look at the other things that he says, you look at the things that the team can do, and you try and mesh all that together to come up with a semblance of maybe what he's thinking and what direction he wants to go with this team. This makes sense to us. We've been feeling this way for some time, and now we have the words from Shanahan to kind of back it and kind of make us feel like we've been kind of in the right boat, at least in the Jimmy and Trey boat. But we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you think. And make sure while you're down there commenting away, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell and become the newest member of the Cutback Crew. Tons of ways to support us. You can share the videos with the faithful, right? You can super chat in the live shows on live chats on Fridays at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time for now. Eventually, they'll shift to a little bit earlier in the week, or in our premieres, or at the Cutback Shop, 49erscutbackshop.com, where you can get that great George Kittle shirt over there, this incredible training camp t-shirt, which is now officially like just as accurate as can be. Trey is training in training camp. All levels of puns there. It's incredible. We just appreciate everything that the Cutback Crew has done, and let us know about the Shanaplan. What do you think about it? Is this the real plan?
Yeah, I encourage everyone to go read the article, right? Go read what actually was said. We reread it verbatim, from the parts that we saw. So let us know what you think, and let us know if we're reading this wrong, if you see it a different way. Sometimes, people read words and see them a different way. Maybe we're wrong from what you see. And if that's true, leave us a comment. I'd like to have a conversation about how you see it. That is part of the fun of being 49er fans, is all the different perspectives. Everyone's able to say it, and then we have a conversation about it, and that's what's most important. So make sure you do that. It's a good article. I thought it was interesting that all the parties involved, Kyle Shanahan, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Trey Lance, all had some sort of comment in this. It's a good piece, so read it, check it out, and let us know what you think.
Albert Breer, incredible job. Kyle Shanahan, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We always love insight from Kyle Shanahan. It's the best. 49ers fans, we appreciate the insight from you. Keep interacting. Join the Cutback Crew today. And until next time, you stay safe.
Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.